What's up, everybody? Going down this weekend, we got UFC Fight Night OKC. Dricus Du Plessis versus Kamaru Usman, and this is going to be my full card breakdown and predictions. Let's rock and roll right into this thing. Our first fight of the night, we got Barbosa versus Anna Melisano. Bandana Anna coming off of the Ultimate Fighter to where she is coming off of a submission loss. And that is not particularly a good look. Coming into the UFC against Barbosa, who has a very high-level ground game. Excellent jiu-jitsu skills, very good takedowns, and not the greatest on the feet, but she does have competent striking. And the thing about Dion is she is very physically strong. Very, very physically strong. Can kind of bully you to the ground. Her transitions in the grappling are very, very high level, and her striking's okay. And coming into this matchup, I actually do think that Bandana Anna, if she can stuff the takedowns of Barbosa and keep the fight on the feet, I think she gives herself a very good chance to win this fight. Because prior to coming on to the Ultimate Fighter, I mean, if you watch Anna in a lot of these fights, her striking is very, very clean. Very, very clean. Good straight punches down the middle. Everything comes from where it's supposed to. She's got that dog attitude to where she's going to walk forward, let her hands go, and she can just kind of pick at you, right? Not a ton of power, but does put those combinations out there. She can start to land the jab, the right hand follows, she'll work the body well. In her ground game, we've seen it has gotten a little bit better. But coming into the UFC, making your debut against Barbosa, I think Dion is a very, very tough test in the debut here. So I think that Melisano puts up a good fight, but I got to side with the experienced UFC fighter here in Barbosa, who is a very tough debut for Bandana Anna. I like Anna a lot, and I'm rooting for her in this fight, and I definitely think she could pull it off, because if she can stuff the takedowns and scramble and work back to the feet, I think that she can tag up Barbosa in the striking, because like I said, I think Barbosa's striking's okay, but I think Bandana Anna's better on the feet. I just worry about the takedown defense, to where if you're getting submitted on the Ultimate Fighter, and we've seen in the past her, get taken down, have some issues there, I think Barbosa can exploit some of the holes in the grappling of Melisano. So I'm going to side with Barbosa by a decision, but I definitely see a world to where Dion could even find a submission in a transition. I think Barbosa is going to come out guns blazing, wait for Melisano to overextend on a shot, trip her, take her down, and start to kind of work her game. And I feel like Anna's going to have a very hard time getting out from underneath of the pressure that Barbosa puts on the deck when it comes to the grappling. I think it's more competitive than what some people might think. Pulling for Anna in this one. I hope she gets it done, but I got to side with the experienced UFC fighter here in Barbosa, who's got a really, really good ground game, who looked really good against Melissa Gatto. And I think from what we've seen from Gatto, she just might be better than Melisano. We got to see Melisano at the UFC level, so there's questions there. Gatto's got good striking, a very good jiu-jitsu game. Barbosa didn't have many issues with her there. The losses that we've seen, the Miranda Maverick, who's a good grappler, Karine Silva, who's a solid grappler as well. I have some concern about the grappling of Melisano in this fight. But on the feet, I think she's very good. I think she'll do all right in the UFC. But unfortunately, I think she loses this fight to an experienced vet in Barbosa, who's got really good jiu-jitsu. Next up, we got Alvin Hines versus RJ Harris. Flip a coin. Because I believe Alvin Harris is coming off of a suspension, if I'm not mistaken, to where he popped. And I don't like that. That immediately, right off the rip, makes me want to see you lose. So I'm rooting for RJ Harris in this fight. And I think that RJ actually is not a blob in the heavyweight division. This guy's got power in his hands. He's got a good left hook, a big winging right hand that he likes to throw, and he's got a nasty standing guillotine. For a guy that doesn't look physically imposing, right? He's a big guy. I mean, 6'6", 80-inch reach. He just cranks that standing guillotine. So if Alvin Hines is not careful and keeps his head on that outside hip, or, is just kind of hanging out in the clinch, RJ Harris will grab that guillotine and crank beyond belief and probably lift Hines up in the air and maybe submit him. The problem is I think Hines is a little bit too crafty for RJ Harris in this fight. And I'm rooting for RJ. I hope he knocks out Alvin Harris. I don't like cheaters, man. But the reality is, Alvin Harris is the better mixed martial artist. And I think that later on in this fight, he's going to end up getting Harris out of there. It just comes down to, for me, I've seen Alvin in the UFC, right? Again, he did lose the fight, so I don't want to give him a participation trophy here, right? And it was against Janata Deniz. And Deniz is a good kickboxer, right? Has the kickboxing background, very good striker. I think that RJ has more power, one-shot power than a guy like Denise, but Alvin Hines, to me, it was the only loss of his career. He stepped in there. He's dog tough. He's got crazy pace, good pressure, and a well-rounded game to where he can hurt you on the feet. He can throw punches and bunches, and he also has a solid ground game. And I feel like that's the difference. I feel like as long as he doesn't get guillotined by Harris on the feet. And we've seen Harris can follow guys to the ground. He does have a solid submission game as well. He's been able to just kind of bully guys, right? And some of the opposition I see him in there with, I just don't know, man. I got some questions. Good win over Littell. I believe Hines beat Littell as well. But we've just seen from Alan Hines a little bit more, in my opinion, more well-rounded, can put the volume out there. And we saw him battle adversity in the Denise fight, which I think that fight there is going to be good for him coming into this one. But I wouldn't be surprised if RJ Harris ends up knocking him out because I think he has more one-shot power. But Hines, a little bit more technical, and I think he'll be crafty in this fight to implement the takedowns, avoid that guillotine, land some shots on the feet, and then find a TKO ground and pound stoppage over Harris in round number 3. Give me Alvin Hines to get this one done. Next, we have Alden Coria versus Stuart Nicoll. Man, I'm all in on Alden Coria in terms of me thinking that this dude is going to be a legit contender in this weight class. Now, the one thing that does bug me a little bit with Coria is he doesn't press for the finish. Now, having said that, it's kind of good in a way because some of the guys that come out guns blazing, they're swinging for the bleachers, they fatigue themselves, they get tired, they get out of position, and they end up getting their back taken and submitted in a fight that they probably should have won. So there are pros and cons to saying that. But sometimes we see Coria in these fights where he is just absolutely tagging up Luis Garula. He's got him on skates, bumbling around and stumbling, and it's like, dude, go for the finish. But that's kind of his style. He picks and pokes, methodically picks you apart with the boxing. We saw him put on a good performance against Alessandro Costa, who's looking really good in the flyweight division. I believe Costa was compromised and banged up coming into that fight, but Alden Coria is legit. He's got really good boxing, trains over at 4 Ounce Fight Club with Josh Van and those dudes. His boxing is slick. He can switch stances very, very well. He pumps the jab out beautifully. And what I love about Coria's style is he's so, like I said, I kind of criticize the fact that we don't always see him push for the finish, but he's so methodical in the way that he breaks guys down. Fights behind the jab, the right hand follows, rips to the body well. He'll switch combination or switch stances and combinations, to give you these different looks. And the thing about Coria is he's got a little bit of a sneaky submission game as well. He's got a little bit of a crafty sub game to where I could see Stuart Nicoll leaving his head out on the hip of Coria if he gets in on a takedown and Coria threatens with a ninja choke or something. So Alden Coria, not to be slept on in the grappling, I think that this is a layup for him, right? Stuart Nicoll's a guy that just hasn't been very impressive in the UFC. Hasn't even won a fight in the UFC. Got submitted by, the little dude, Jesus Aguilar, right? Who's got, I think, the shortest reach in the UFC. I'm pretty sure that Jesus Aguilar got cut if I'm not mistaken. But to be fair, Aguilar's got some power. Right? He's got a submission game, nasty guillotine, got caught in it, lost to Lucas Ocha, most recently getting stopped by Alessandro Costa, who's powerful and very dangerous. So it's not like these are like horrible losses, but I feel like Alden Coria is better than all of those guys, right? So Alden Coria, this is his fight to lose, in my opinion. His boxing is slick. His takedown defense is good. And that's one of the reasons I feel like maybe he's a little bit cautious in some of these fights, knowing that some of these guys are going to look to take him down because, they're not going to want to strike with him. So I feel like Coria, he should win this fight all day long. I could see a late finish, but given the fact that Nicoll does have the grappling threat, right? I mean, it's not that Nicoll's a great grappler. His wrestling is decent. His jiu-jitsu game is decent. The striking seems like it's improved a little bit, actually, so I want to give him credit there. But I feel like Coria is just going to bang him up. Rip the jab, bust his face up, affect the breathing a little bit, then fire off the right hand, rip to the body, take some wind out of the sail to where I could very much see him melting Stewart as the fight plays out. But I'm going to side with a decision victory here for Alden Coria, but I wouldn't be surprised whatsoever if he ends up melting Nicoll in like the second or third round with body shots via TKO. If I'm Alden Coria, I'm watching this Costa fight. The way he went to the body, I think Coria does. I think that he bangs him up. Actually, you know what? Because I just said that, I'm going to flip the pick on the spot here and say not flip the pick, but the result. I think he's going to get a TKO. I do. I think he'll work the body. He's a better boxer than Costa, more technical, a little bit smoother. This is Alden Coria's fight to lose. Stuff the takedowns, keep it in your world. Coria does just that, bangs him up, and outscores Nicoll on the feet, leads him into a body shot, puts him away with the boxing. Give me Alden Coria by round 2 KO. If not, outscores him easily, 30-27 decision. Next up, we got Felipe Franco versus Levi Rodrigues Jr. Anybody got a coin around here, man? This is such a sloppy fight. I don't think Felipe Franco's good at all. But I also don't think that Levi Rodrigues Jr. is good at all either. The X factor in this fight is the fact that Rodrigues has crazy power. And I'm pretty sure that this last fight where he finished Freddie Vidal on DWCS, didn't this guy pop? So again, I don't like that. I don't like that whatsoever. Is he going to come in deflated, or are we going to see a big shift in him? So this is going to be an early prediction here because I want to see what they look like on the scales to see if I can get a better read on Levi Rodrigues. But this is, to me, picking Levi Rodrigues to win this thing by knockout because I just don't believe in Felipe Franco from what I've seen. And listen, I completely understand the fact that he went the distance with Mario Pinto, and that's kind of mind-boggling to me because Mario Pinto was a guy that I was even hyping up saying this guy actually looks like he could be decent at heavyweight. And then this was one of the worst performances we've seen from Mario Pinto. He basically just smudged Franco up along the octagon side. And I will say this, I think that Franco, even though he can be kind of inactive in these fights and be a little bit too patient, not do a whole lot, get held up against the fence, not really show a ton of urgency, I think he's more technical than Rodrigues overall as a fighter. I know that Rodrigues has this nasty striking style to where he's got all this power. He loads up on shots to where I could definitely see if Franco goes down the middle, he could definitely catch him. And I think that Franco is probably the better grappler. So there's clearly a path to victory for Felipe here. Take Rodrigues down, hold him down, control him, submit him, beat him up on the ground, or just wet blanket him for 15 minutes. But I feel like Rodrigues is just going to come out guns blazing and put his foot on the gas and just not have any respect for Franco's game and land a big shot on him. And I feel like if some of these other guys, like I feel like if Pinto would have done that, he could have gotten Franco out of there, right? And Freddie Vidal submitted him. I mean, to be fair, Franco was having some moments, but Freddie Vidal submits you? And I know Franco slowed down in the fight and he's picking up these wins on the regional scene and, you know, he's shown a well-rounded game, but I just feel like Levi Rodrigues, he's a guy that's going to go in there and look for the finish. That I can say about him. Where Franco, I just don't know what to expect. He looks a little bit, you know, sometimes he's rushing for a finish. Other times he's sitting back and just kind of hit or miss to me. And I feel like Levi's going to go in there, march him down, look to land a big shot, and find a way to get him out of there. So I'm going to go Levi Rodrigues early prediction here. I want to see what they look like on the scales, given the circumstances surrounding Levi and this fight from what we found out after. But I think he does have some power. His striking is good. He's aggressive. I think he's going to look to march Franco down and not push him up against the fence. And I feel like he can sprawl and brawl early and find a way to get a hesitant Franco out of there. Give me Levi Rodrigues by first round knockout. If he doesn't get an early KO, I could see him slowing down and Franco winning a decision or getting a late stoppage himself. Next up, we got Hyeon Ko versus Jean-Paul Lebosnoyani. This is actually a really good fight. Low-key, really good fight. Man, this is a fun stylistic matchup, right? Because I was pretty confident in my pick, and now that I'm like staring at it, I'm like, man, this is actually more competitive than what I first thought. Look, JPL he's good. And we've seen from him so far, right, coming off of LFA, was looking very impressive. The submission game is there. He's got a solid grappling game. His striking is pretty good. We saw that on DWCS. Beautiful KO over Jack Congdon, and that was impressive, right? Got the contract, comes out in the debut. Phil Rowe's not an easy debut, and I know Phil Rowe is, you know, kind of washed more or less at this point, or at least close to it. Phil Rowe's kind of hesitant. Plays the bottom game with the jiu-jitsu game, right? On the feet, he's just kind of string beating shots and not very urgent, right? He's got a tall frame, which can be very difficult to deal with, and he can keep you at range with the striking. So Phil Rowe's kind of a tough debut, to be fair to JPL. But one of the things about Lebosnoyani's game is we see him slow down in fights. And that worries me in this one because Ko, I think, is one of the better prospects in a loaded welterweight division. This guy is really well-rounded. He's got power on the feet. He bobs and weaves and dips and rips these big, powerful shots, but doesn't really get himself too out of position. So if he throws a big shot and misses, it's not like he's so off balance and overextended to where JPL is going to be countering him with shots or taking him down and all that kind of stuff. I think that Ko is the better wrestler. I think that you could say maybe JPL's got the better jiu-jitsu game. But I feel like the wrestling of Ko will negate that. I feel like on the feet, Ko is more dangerous. But I also feel like JPL, if they're going tit for tat on the feet, I could see Lebosnoyani finding a way to outscore him. But I got to side with Hyeon Ko in this fight, man. I think that he is fantastic. The Korean Tyson, he's looking like a promising fighter, and he's on a nice win streak. Very, very nice win streak. Just neutralize Igor Cavalcanti, who people were looking at as this super dangerous dude with a ton of power and some scariness to him, and Ko just shut him down. Like that's one of the best ways to describe Ko's game. He's like an elite defense in the NFL, right? You come in and you're like, we're going to lean on the defense. He could just neutralize a good offense, and that's what Ko does. He can neutralize a good offense, play defense on the feet, be very responsible, don't overextend and get himself out of position, which is something he used to do earlier in his career, to where now we're not seeing that as much. So it's harder to find those counter shots on him, right? And we saw that in this Oban Elliott fight. I mean, this was so impressive because Oban Elliott, like I know in hindsight, like maybe was overrated at the time, but still decent. Right, still a decent fighter, and going out there and dominating Phil Rowe, man. He beat Phil Rowe way more dominantly than JPL did. And I know styles make fights, MMA math. I think Ko wins this fight. I do think that JPL will put up a good fight in the first and second round, but I think Ko will be a step ahead. I think on the feet, he's got more power. Even though JPL does have some power, and I think he's got maybe a more dynamic striking arsenal, I think that Ko mixes in the big shots, gets JPL to shell up. Ko shoots underneath, takes him down. He's very, very good out in the open with takedowns. He can take you down up against the fence. And when he gets you down, he's a very sticky grappler to where he just goes from position to position, can soften you up with ground and pound. And he's one of these control-based guys to where he doesn't chase a submission, doesn't chase the ground and pound, to where that kind of limits your opportunities to be able to, create these opportunities to sweep, bump, and get back to the feet and create those scramble opportunities. So I'm going to go Ko here. I think he neutralizes the offense of Lebosnoyani, can land some good shots on the feet, but then take him down and be able to put JPL on his back and control him. And I think the longer the fight goes, we'll see Lebosnoyani slow down, and that's where Ko will kind of just put his foot on the gas a little bit more. So give me Ko to win this one by a pretty clear-cut decision. But like I've said before, I think JPL's got a good submission game. Maybe could catch Ko in something, and if it stays on the feet, I think that, JPL's got some good kicks to where maybe he could, walk Ko into something. But I think Ko, defensively very good. He's got an elite defensive game where he kind of comes in with, the neutralizing, right? I don't know if that's a good analogy. He doesn't really take a ton of risks. He plays to his game, shuts down your offense, takes you down, and just it finds ways to get the job done, and he's kind of a decision merchant at this point. I'm going to go Ko. I think he neutralizes Lebosnoyani's offense with the defensive approach, which is basically just taking people down and keeping them down with the grappling and controlling you and wearing you out. Give me Ko. He's got the power to be able to hurt you as well. So give me Ko all around here. Next up, we got Jose Delgado versus Austin Bashi. This is a good fight. Really, really good fight. Two fun prospects in the featherweight division. And this most recent win by Austin Bashi has aged really well because John Yanis has looked actually really good. Had a competitive fight with Marcus McGee, had a good KO on the Canada card. So Yanis is really good, a dangerous striker, southpaw striker, to where we see with Delgado, he'll switch stances, move around a lot, to where I feel like this is one of those striker versus grappler matchups, right? Austin Bashi's got the wrestling background. He's 24 years of age. He's very young in the game. He's going to be quite a bit shorter than Delgado, and he's going to be at a reach disadvantage. So he's going to have to close the distance, but he's got to be careful doing it, right? So throwing these big telegraphed looping punches to where Delgado's going to be able to time you with this precise striking, that's where I could see Bashi finding himself in some trouble, but he's got to find a way to close the distance. And I just feel every time Bashi looks to close him down, that's where Delgado's going to be able to snipe him with these accurate shots that we see from Jose. But that being said, man, I think Bashi has a real chance to win this fight. I like his wrestling. I think his back takes are nice, right? I know he lost to, Christian Rodrigues, C-Rod, who is the prospect killer, right? Had a very impressive submission win on DWCS against Dorian Ramos, and the win over Yanis, like I said, is really, really good. The thing is I think Jose Delgado is going to be prepared for the approach that Bashi is going to be bringing to the table, right? Delgado over at the MMA lab working with Benson Henderson. I like the camp around Delgado. I believe that he's seeing a lot of really good grapplers in that gym that he's working with, and I don't think that Bashi's necessarily going to bring some puzzle that Delgado hasn't seen. But having said that, it's a fight, and Bashi's got his own style, and his striking's improving. So I could see Bashi coming out here, setting up the takedowns, getting a hold of Delgado, controlling him, winning a decision, possibly getting to the back and finding, a sub over Delgado. But man, if Bashi is not able to keep him down and doesn't find a sub, I think he's going to be in for a long night because Delgado is one of my favorite, young fighters in the featherweight division, man. I've been high on this guy since he came in, right? Knocked out Juarez on DWCS coming over from LFA, right? Got the job done over Connor Matthews in the debut. Hyder Emil, who had a bunch of hype at the time, knocked him out brutally with the knee. I thought that this was a robbery. I thought he beat Nathaniel Wood. It was a close fight, but I thought Delgado won the fight. And it's coming off of a close one against Andre Fili, but we know how Andre Fili is. One night he shows up, he looks like a top 10 fighter, and the next night he looks like he shouldn't be in the UFC. And Fili had some good moments against Vinny Oliveira recently. So to me, Andre Fili, he's a tough opponent, never an easy fight. Man, I'm going to side with Delgado in this fight. And I think he's going to find a shot in round 2 against Austin Bashi. And it's going to be important for Delgado to be on the footwork. Don't be too afraid of the takedowns of Bashi and really look to put him on the back foot, because if you can put a good grappler like Bashi to where you know that he's not going to want to stand on the feet with you for long periods of time and you can put him on his back foot, that makes the shot a lot more predictable. So I would imagine that Delgado is going to be targeting front kicks, working the lead leg of Bashi, taking away some of the base, making it a little bit harder for him to explode in on these shots. And I think he's going to be prepared to meet those looping punches that Bashi likes to throw to get to the takedowns with those straight shots down the middle, some knees. We know Delgado's got a really good knee. He's got a good clinch game as well. I feel like the fast twitch striker in Delgado will have enough to be able to fend off the takedowns, circle off, and land some damaging shots on Bashi and find a way to get him out of there. If not, he'll win a close decision. He'll win by damage. And then if Bashi wins, it's by him taking down Delgado, controlling him, and possibly finding a submission. So I'm going to go Delgado here. I don't know that if Bashi's not able to keep him down, I think Delgado's going to bust him up on the feet and his confidence will build. Bashi will start to slow down, and that's when Jose will turn it up and find a shot. I'll say second round knockout for Jose Delgado. Watch for the knees and the front kicks in this matchup. Front kicks to take wind out of the sail, knees up the middle, anticipating a shot from the wrestler in Austin Bashi. But this is a close one. I could see it going either way because Bashi's got very, very good grappling. And like I said, that win has aged very well against John Yanis, and C-Rod is he's the prospect killer and also a very well-rounded, experienced fighter. But I like Delgado, man. Very dangerous. Next up, we got one of my favorite fights on the card. Tommy McMillen versus Alberto Montes. I feel like this is going to be the fight of the night. That is my prediction, is that this is the fight of the night. These are two really game prospects, and I think two guys that are going to do really, really well in this weight class. So regardless of who wins and who loses, it might not be the last time we see these dudes fight. This, to me, is a battle of interesting styles because Alberto Montes is a guy that at first it was like, oh, he's kind of just really an opportunistic grappler. He's got really slick, submission skills. His jiu-jitsu is very good. He is excellent in the front headlock position. His front chokes are nasty. His darces, his anacondas, and that's what we've seen throughout his career is if you get into a scramble with Montes, watch the neck because he is very, very good in that front choke area, right? That is his bread and butter, and that's how he's gotten a lot of guys out of there. But what we've seen recently, especially, against Ricky Tercios, was his boxing looked really, really good, right? Kind of, this might be like a Sean O'Malley versus Ilia Topuria, right? That's kind of what this looks like. Like Montez's boxings look good, right? He looked really good against Ricky Tercios, but that's Ricky Tercios, right? A guy that for a while people, had a little bit of hype coming off of Tough because I feel like he reminded people of Tony Ferguson, a little bit of an oddball, right? But what we've seen from him, right, got the submission on DWCS against Carlos Calderon. It was very impressive. And like I said, if you get caught in a scramble, man, Montes has got a nasty darce. He's got a nasty anaconda to where I very much could see him catching Tommy McMillen in some sort of scramble, and that's how he wins this fight. I think the more technical fighter is Alberto Montes, but I feel like Tommy McMillen's style that he brings to the table, while I've been saying I'm kind of waiting for the moment to fade McMillen, I was originally thinking that it might be this fight, and maybe it ends up being that Alberto Montes wins this fight. But something's telling me that Tommy McMillen is going to win a dogfight here by decision, and the reason for that being, while I think Montes is a little bit more technical on the feet, a little bit more seasoned, and I feel like even on the ground with the jiu-jitsu, he's better than McMillen. Tommy has this game to where he's very basic on the feet, throwing these kind of lethargic-looking 1-2s. His defense is not great, but he causes chaos. He pulls you into this super high-paced fight that a lot of guys struggle to keep up with. And I feel like Alberto Montes, if you're just playing a tit-for-tat, back and forth, you go, I go, I'll show you my boxing, you show me your kicks, like that favors Montes. But I feel like Tommy McMillen is going to be aware of the front chokes of Montes. And what we've seen from Tommy McMillen on DWCS, I mean, David Magoyan, the Armin Sarukian protege, I mean, this dude's good. And I feel like he'll be in the UFC at some point. He's a really good wrestler, and I'd say a much better wrestler than Montes, and he's got good submissions. He had Tommy McMillen really, really deep he had him in on a bad submission, man, to where I thought McMillen was going to get submitted, and he's like contorting his body and his neck and somehow got out of it. I have no idea how he got out of it, right? And we've seen from Tommy McMillen, he's got a good submission game of his own, got a nasty guillotine. So if Alberto Montes makes the mistake of shooting on McMillen, I could absolutely see Tommy Gunn locking in some sort of guillotine. But I got to side with McMillen here, man. I think he's well coached over at Red Hawk Academy with Tim Welch, Sugar Sean O'Malley, and I feel like Tommy's still a little bit green, a little bit too chaotic for my liking at moments, but I actually feel like that style may work out for him in this fight because Montes wants that pretty style of fight. He wants you to shoot a sloppy takedown or melt you on the feet to where then he can set up an opportunistic submission to where I just don't know if McMillen's going to give him that. And I feel like even if Montes, I mean, he's got a nasty darce though, man. He's got a nasty darce, and I feel like he's a lot more technical of a submission ace than David Magoyan. So I feel like if Montes is able to get McMillen in that position, I feel like Montes puts him away. But I feel like McMillen will be smart. He'll turn this into a brawl. He'll make it chaos. And I feel like he will outwork and outdog Montes in this fight. That's how he wins. If there's an early stoppage, I think it's Montes submitting Tommy McMillen. Because I feel like if he gets him locked into a submission, we've seen that Montes is excellent mechanics with his submissions. Perfect. Excellent Darce mechanics, excellent Anaconda mechanics, to where I just don't think that McMillen would get out of it. But having said that, we've seen him get out of tough spots. We've seen on the feet that he does have power. He's got a wrestling background. He's going to have a reach advantage. I feel like making this chaotic can favor McMillen, pull Montes into a dogfight to where it's not this super clean technical fight to where I feel like that favors Montes. So I feel like this could go either way. I've been torn on this one because originally I was thinking Montes, then I was McMillen, then I was Montes. Now I've been back and forth, man. I feel like this is a 50-50 fight to me. The more technical guy, Montes. More dangerous submission ace, Montes. But the dog side, the guy that's got the dog in him, McMillen. I feel like he has the power advantage on the feet as well. And I feel like he has the grappling to be able to deal with what Montes brings to the table. And I feel like Tim Welch will have McMillen ready when it comes to the submission defense in a fight like this against Alberto Montes. Give me Tommy McMillen via chaos in a competitive 29-28 decision type of fight here. I could see Montes submitting him. I could see McMillen melting him with a shot later on in the fight, or Montes shoots a sloppy takedown as he gets labored. McMillen locks in a guillotine. I could see anything happening in this fight. This is going to be chaos. This is going to be a barn burner. I'm going to side with Tommy McMillen. He thrives and lives in the chaos. Give me Tommy Gunn here, man. Next up, we got Tabitha Ricci versus Fatima Kline. This is interesting. This is an interesting fight because Fatima Kline, I believe, was supposed to be fighting Amanda Ribas. And that, to me, was a lot easier of a fight than Tabitha Ricci because we saw what Tabitha Ricci was able to do against Amanda Ribas, was able to put her away with a nasty elbow. And the fighters that Ricci loses to are the Yan Xiaonans. They are the Virna Jandarobas. They're the most high-level fighters in this weight class. So the question is, do we think that Fatima Kline is as high level as a Virna Jandaroba, a Yan Xiaonan? Is she on that type of level? And my answer is, I think that she is. I think that Fatima Kline is one of the best up-and-coming fighters in all of WMMA. Her striking is absolutely flawless, man. Her striking is so clean, so technical. The way that she marches you down in that southpaw stand, she stings you with the jab and then immediately starts to pull to then tag you with a jab again to set up the left hand. I mean, that high kick that she landed against Melissa Martinez later on in the fight, that through the 1-2, the Leon Edwards with the high kick right behind it, was beautiful. So that's showing me good IQ on the feet, walking you into her shots, and she's going to have a pretty significant reach advantage here. She's going to be quite a bit taller than Ricci. She's going to have a 6-inch reach advantage, and that's a problem for Ricci here because Kline does a great job with the long tools, right? Kicks to the body, front kicks, battering the lead leg, ripping head kicks at you to where that can be a little bit of a problem because that can help Ricci, catch a takedown and ultimately get Fatima Kline to the ground. So I think that Fatima's got to be selective in how she's throwing those kicks, but we've also seen that Kline's ground game is very good as well, right? And this loss to Jasmine Jasdavicius, like Jasmine's a really, really good grappler, and that was almost 2 years ago. And I feel like Kline's gotten a lot better since then, right? Was able to stop Victoria Dudakova. That's a pretty solid win. The knockout over Martinez and beating Angela Hill to where she was putting the work in on Angela Hill, man, was banging her around with big shots. So while I think that this could be competitive because I feel like Ricci, maybe he's the better grappler. I think that she's kind of got that dog type of style where she moves forward. She could take a shot to land a few. And Ricci, to be fair, like I said, she only loses to some of the best opposition in this weight class. And Ricci's good. She's good. She's got a good ground game. She's good in the clinch with those elbows to where I feel like that's her game plan. March down Kline, pressure her, back her up to the fence, get in the clinch, look for elbows, knees to the body, and try to break down Fatima Kline. Try to get her to the ground, put her on her back. But we've seen Kline's got a good grappling background as well. We've seen her elevate that part of her game throughout her career. And I think on the feet, while Ricci throws some big power shots, she's not as good on the feet as Fatima Kline. So I'm going to go Fatima Kline here, and I think she gets it done by a decision. I could see a scenario to where she catches Ricci with a head kick or something. That would be absolutely crazy. That would be a statement-like performance for Fatima Kline. So I think Fatima Kline is eventually going to be someone that we're looking at as one of the elites in the women's strawweight division. I think she's better on the feet. She pulls you in the shots well. She's got the good long-range weapons. I think she'll batter the midsection of Ricci with front kicks, kicks to the body, kicks to the inside leg to eventually look to set up some sort of high kick. But I think that it will be competitive, but I think Fatima Kline, while competitive, clearly wins this fight. I'll say 30-27, clear victory for Fatima Kline. I think she's a better overall fighter than Ricci. Sharper on the feet, and I think the grappling, while Ricci may have a little bit of an advantage there, I don't think it's by much, and I think the striking gap is pretty wide. Give me Fatima Kline. I think she's one of the better strikers in women's MMA right now. Next up, we got Chase Hooper versus Mitch Ramirez. Now, my first thought on this fight was, I'm out on Chase Hooper. And Mitch Ramirez is going to win this fight because I don't really know who Mitch Ramirez is very well, right? I've seen him in some fights, but I don't know his game very, very well. So I had to go back to the tape, watch a little bit more on Mitch Ramirez before I just say, well, I'm out on Chase Hooper and I'm completely done with him because, he hasn't looked particularly good recently. But to be fair, who did he lose to? Alexander Hernandez. Would Alexander Hernandez beat Mitch Ramirez? I would like to think so. What about Lance Gibson Jr.? Lance Gibson Jr.'s looked pretty good. He had a competitive fight with Bob Green, and look how good Green's been, right? And I know that fight was a split decision. It wasn't. Green clearly won, but you get my point. Do I think Lance Gibson beats Mitch Ramirez? Absolutely. So if I pick Mitch Ramirez, it would be based off of the fact that I no longer believe in Chase Hooper. Now, while I don't have as much confidence in Chase Hooper as I once did back when I was picking him to beat Vyacheslav Borshov and submit Slava Claus, when I was picking him to submit Clay Guida, when I was picking him to beat Jim Miller, these OG older heads type of fighters like a Guida who's a grappler and past his finest hour at this point. Jim Miller, still picking up wins, right? We saw what he did to Jared Gordon. So that's a good win. And I feel like Jim Miller would beat Mitch Ramirez. So at the end of the day, me picking Mitch Ramirez based off of what would be my reasoning for picking Mitch Ramirez? I think he's going to march down Chase Hooper, stuff the takedowns, make Chase uncomfortable on the feet, not allow him to get a takedown to where you see the confidence dwindle on the side of Chase. And then Ramirez lands a big shot and gets him out of there. And to be fair to Ramirez, right, got a win over, Jeremy Holloway 3 years ago, lost to Carlos Prates, got brutally KO'd on DWCS, but that's at welterweight, and that's Carlos Prates, right? One of the best strikers in the UFC, got the knockout over Tavares, lost to Thiago Moises. He was losing the fight pretty much the whole time and then got stopped with the leg kicks late. Mike Davis, who's a really good fighter, excellent boxing, a solid ground game, got stopped there. I think Mitch Ramirez definitely has a shot to win this fight, and I don't feel like Chase Hooper should be some big favorite coming into this. And while I had it in my mind that I was not going to pick Chase Hooper again after this Lance Gibson fight, he should be able to beat Mitch Ramirez. That's the reality. If Chase Hooper can't beat Mitch Ramirez, he should not be in the UFC anymore. And it's not the slight on Mitch Ramirez. I think he's a good fighter. He's a dog. He moves forward. He trains with, I believe, Court McGee, so I think that he'll be very, very ready for the submissions. And we've seen that Ramirez is very defensively responsible against submissions and his striking on the feet. He does have power, but he's a little bit labored and a little bit predictable. So if he could stop the takedowns and keep it in his world, I definitely see a world where he could outstrike Chase Hooper, land a big shot, and get him out of there. But I'm going to give Chase Hooper one more shot. And I'm going to say that he wins this fight, and I think that he's going to be able to submit Mitch Ramirez. Now, while we've seen that Ramirez has very good submission defense, and maybe so good that he just gets controlled on the deck for, most of the fight and ends up losing a decision to Chase Hooper. That's possible. But Chase Hooper on the feet, I know he's not particularly great, especially with the defense, but he's got some tools, right? He's got a little bit of a reach advantage here, a little bit of a height advantage to where I think if he fires those kicks to the body, he's not going to be worried about getting taken down by Ramirez, because Chase Hooper, way better when it comes to the jiu-jitsu game than Ramirez. And I know Ramirez is poised on the ground and he has good sub-defense, but I don't think he's been in there with a grappler. I know he was in there with Moises where he was having some issues, but I feel like Chase Hooper is one of the best straight jiu-jitsu guys, at least in the lightweight division. So I'm going to trust Chase Hooper one more time, but with hesitancy. I very much could see Ramirez winning this fight, and a lot of it is, well, I think Ramirez is okay. I'm not that high on him. I'm just not. I'm sorry. I'm not that high on Ramirez. It's just the fact that I don't trust Chase Hooper that much anymore. And I feel like, in a way, his game's been figured out a little bit. March him down, show no respect to his game, put him on his heels, land some big shots, and he doesn't take a shot very well. But I feel like Chase Hooper, hopefully he's learned a little bit of something. He's almost 27 years of age. He, hopefully is improving from fight to fight. I feel like Mitch Ramirez is not that fast on the feet, and I feel like Hooper can bang the kicks from range, throw some of those weird strikes on the feet, close the gap, find ways to cause entanglements with Ramirez, and ultimately get to the back and find a submission in round number 2. If not, they'll get into some grappling exchanges. Hooper will control them. And the thing about Chase is if he gets you down, it's hard to get back up because of the submission threat. His jiu-jitsu is very, very good. And on the feet, Lance Gibson Jr. is a good striker, right? And so is Alexander Hernandez. I think that they're much better strikers than Mitch Ramirez. So that's just my take on it. I think Jim Miller is better than Mitch Ramirez. Ramirez is solid, but I got to go Chase Hooper. He shouldn't be as big of a favorite as he is. I think that this is a close fight. I could see either going either way. But the reality is, if Chase Hooper's got anything left, he should be able to beat a guy like Mitch Ramirez, in my opinion. Give me Chase Hooper to get this one done by submission. I know Ramirez is good sub-defense, but I don't think he's been in there with a guy with the jiu-jitsu level of a Chase Hooper, at least in this weight class right now. Co-main event, we got Jared Cannonier versus CLD, Christian Leroy Duncan. If this fight was a couple years ago, I would probably pick Jared Cannonier. Like, if it was this version of CLD that we have right now versus like a prime Cannonier, I actually would probably pick Jared Cannonier to win. But the problem is this is a 42-year-old Jared Cannonier, and I can't believe he's 42, man. The time absolutely flies. Jared Cannonier is 42. But the reality is Jared Cannonier is actually still good. Like, he's still pretty good. It's not like he's not like a complete shell of himself, but we've clearly seen that he's slowed down. He's absolutely slowed down. The speed isn't the same. He's a little bit labored in there. The shots are a little bit slower. It's a little easier to see things coming. And where Jared has really struggled in a lot of these fights recently, right? Remember the beatdown he gave Marvin Vettori 3 years ago, man. That's crazy that was 3 years ago, right? Got put away by Nasruddin Imavov, who should be fighting for the title here soon. Is one of the best strikers, I think, in all of the UFC. So no harm, no foul. But what gave Cannonier problems? The speed. And that was 2 years ago. So Cannonier's 2 years older than in that fight to where the speed was a problem. Caio Borralho was beating him up. It was the speed, right? Gregory Rodrigues was beating the heck out of Cannonier. Dang near knocked him out, and then he gassed out, and Cannonier put it on him and got him out of there, right? MVP, again, it's MVP, one of the most difficult puzzles to deal with that we've ever seen in MMA period, whether it was Bellator or, now in the UFC. Like, MVP is a problem, right? And that was what you saw there, right? Cannonier was able to get him down and control him later in the fight, but he had a hard time with the speed of MVP, and we've seen MVP, he's a long-time welterweight, bounce around to 185, and, he was giving these guys like Shara and Cannonier problems with the speed and obviously the tricky styles, where CLD does not have a style like MVP. He's not as tricky, he's not as elusive, but what CLD does have is dangerous power and a very much improving game. Like Christian Leroy Duncan, man, at 6'2" with a 79-inch reach, he's going to be a little bit bigger than Jared in there. And Jared's a guy that's normally has like a physicality advantage in a lot of ways. And he very much could be stronger than CLD. And I feel like if Jared wants to win this fight, it's going to come by making this thing ugly. Land some big shots, move forward, keep the head off the center line, crash CLD up along the fence, take him down, beat him up with elbows in close, put him on his back, control him, and win the fight in kind of a gritty type of way. That's how I feel like Jared Cannonier wins, is outside of catching CLD with a big shot. We know Cannonier's got some nasty leg kicks as well. But I have to go CLD in this fight. And I'm worried for Cannonier, man, because I really like Jared Cannonier, but I also like CLD. And I feel like CLD is eventually going to find a shot against Jared in this fight, man. Like, Jared Cannonier, to me, he's still solid, but we've clearly seen that he's taken a step back. And that's just going to happen. I mean, you're 42 years of age. The reaction time is going to slow down a little bit. The speed, the response to some of the shots coming your way. I feel like he's got the grappling edge. And I feel like, in a way, he may have the power edge still as well, because the last thing to go is power. But CLD, since losing to RoboCop 2 years ago, which, I mean, that's a win that's aged like fine wine for RoboCop, right? He's been on a 4-fight win streak, beating Andre Puliev, right? Stopping Eric Anders with a nasty spinning elbow, which was beautiful. Destructive knockout against Marco Tulio. Another spinning attack. And then most recently was beating up Roman Dolidze, but had some problems with the grappling. That's Jared's path to victory here. Other than landing a big shot, I think he attacks the lead leg of Duncan to slow down some of that movement, tries to bully him in close, push him up against the fence with a grapple-heavy game plan. And if Jared does that, I see a path to victory for him here. But CLD is just too elusive. He's too fast. He's too dynamic. He's a great athlete. One of the best athletes in this division, and one of the best athletes, I think, in the UFC. I really believe that. CLD is a freak athlete, man. He's bouncing around, springing in and out of range, throwing the front kicks, and he's one of these guys that's very technical, but there's really no patterns to his game. He jabs, he throws a right hand, a spinning attack, a this, a that. He's just like freestyling in there, which makes him very hard to deal with. He can switch stances. He bounces in and out of range very well. He's got a significant speed advantage and a sharp shooting advantage in this fight, and I feel like his takedown defense has gotten better, to where even if Jared does take him down, I feel like CLD can work back to the feet. And I feel like Jared, with a grapple-heavy game plan, while I think that's his best path other than landing some sort of big shot, I feel like that'll slow him down too. With being a little bit older, we know that Jared in the past, like his gas tank has been really good, so I'm not saying that he's going to gas. I feel like his gas tank will still be good, but being a little bit older, sometimes we see some of these guys that are known for their gas tank also slow down when it comes to the gas tank a little bit. So I'm going to go CLD here. I think the footwork is a problem, the speed, right? I think Jared has some success early, but I just don't think he's going to be able to keep up with the movement of Duncan, man. And the thing that does, I will say this, what does worry me for CLD is falling in love with the spinning attacks. Because yes, when they land, they're impressive, ooh and ah, flashy highlight reels that the UFC can play to promote you and boost up your fights. I get it. But when you throw those spinning attacks, you're essentially kind of giving your back in a way, to where if Jared can duck underneath and time one of those, he instantly gets to the back of CLD, to where Duncan's out of position and Jared can take him down or time it and land some sort of shot. So CLD, I like the spinning attacks. I like the flow that he operates with, but makes me a little bit nervous, especially against a guy in Jared Cannonier, who I feel like is better than Dolidze. I feel like is better than Marco Tulio, Eric Anders, and Puliev. So to me, a step up in competition. I just don't know that Jared is still that guy in this fight. If he was, I'd probably actually pick him for an upset here. But I got to side with CLD. I think that this is set up for him to go in there to build off of Jared Cannonier. I don't know why I said Cannonier like that. I like Jared, man, but I like CLD. He's elusive. He's fast. He's a good striker. He's been improving a lot. Almost 31 years of age. I like his game. I think the speed's going to be a problem, and I think Jared's going to have a hard time with it. And I know you could say, well, wait a minute, he did okay against MVP. I think CLD's got better takedown defense than MVP, and I feel like styles make fights. CLD can mix it up. Those little oblique shots to frustrate Cannonier. Cannonier can switch stances to be able to match Duncan. I think Cannonier should attack the legs, look to grapple, elbows in close, but I feel like Duncan's elusiveness and takedown defense is going to hold up, and I think he gets this one done and finds a right hand down the middle, or even another spinning attack that hurts Jared Cannonier, and he puts him away. Give me CLD to get this one done. I think he's a ton of fun to watch, very dynamic, very explosive. I think he gets the biggest win of his career over an aging Jared Cannonier. All right, we have arrived at our main event of the evening. If you guys are enjoying this, if you could please do me a favor, give the video a like and hype the video. And if you're new, if you could subscribe, I would greatly appreciate it. We have Dricus Du Plessis versus Kamaru Usman. This is a great fight. And this fight feels like it was just announced like a few days ago, right? It's obviously been longer than that, but I can't believe that this fight's already here. Man, I've actually went back and forth on this because my initial reaction was DDP all day long. Usman's old. He's been very inactive over the past few years. DDP, yeah, this is, I think, the longest layoff of his career, at least since he's been in the UFC. And, is that going to affect him coming back? And, but outside of that, I feel like DDP should have it in the bag, right? He's the better striker. And as long as he's patched the holes in the wrestling game, then he should win all day long. But when I watch the game of Kamaru Usman, I see ways that Kamaru can win this fight. And one of the big factors for Usman coming into this is the fact that he has Trevor Whitman as a coach. Because what Justin Gaethje just pulled off against Ilia Topuria was spectacular. And a lot of that was, yes, Justin Gaethje, but also a lot of the nuances and tactics that Trevor Whitman had crafted up for that fight. So if you don't think that Trevor Whitman is going to have some sort of really good game plan for Kamaru coming into this fight alongside Henry Hooft, those are some great minds, man. Some really, really good striking minds to where I feel like Kamaru is going to actually surprise some people when it comes to the striking in this matchup. The problem I have for Usman in this fight is not only is Dricus the biggest and strongest and probably hardest hitting fighter that Kamaru has fought, but I just feel like Usman is at one of these points in his career where, yeah, he's older. He's been really inactive over the past few years. Now, granted, I think he's the second greatest welterweight of all time behind GSP. Kamaru Usman's an all-time great, right? The Colby Covington fights were incredible. Got knocked out by Leon Edwards, was winning the whole fight, got set up with the high kick, lost to Leon in the trilogy. Close competitive fight with Hamzat, which was his first time, I believe, at 185. And it was short notice and gave Hamzat a run for his money and was more competitive with Hamzat than DDP. But MMA math for you. Styles make fights. He's coming off of a dominant win over Joaquin Buckley. But seeing what Sean Brady just did to Buckley, it kind of dampens a little bit of the performance that we thought was so impressive at the time, to where it's still impressive because Buckley, we just see that his takedown defense is a problem, and Sean Brady is that good on the ground. So it's not like it really takes away a lot from Usman, but it just shows that what he did wasn't, as special as we maybe thought because we saw someone else do it and Brady did it a lot more dominantly. I feel like Kamaru's best path to victory is to obviously try to take down DDP. And if Dricus has not patched the holes with the takedown defense and his get-up game, he's going to lose this fight. Straight up, he's going to lose this fight. But I feel like Dricus Du Plessis is going to get it done. I feel like DDP is going to win this fight. He's been away for almost a year now. His coach, Mornay Fisser, they had a ton of excuses and all sorts of stuff after this Hamzat fight. I didn't like, we didn't practice the crucifix position and this and that, and it rubbed me the wrong way. But I've said before, I think that Mornay Visser is actually a really good coach. And I feel like this time away was because they're trying to fix the gap in DDP's game, which is the takedown defense and finding ways to work back to the feet. DDP is a good grappler. His jiu-jitsu's good. He's a good offensive grappler. Where he struggled throughout his career, which is why I picked Hamzat to beat him, was defensively. He has a hard time dealing with guys that have a good shot, and he has a hard time getting out from underneath of good wrestlers. We saw it in the Brunson fight. We saw it in the Hamzat fight. But what we saw in this fight as well is when it was on the feet, DDP was landing some good shots where Hamzat's like, I'm not dealing with that. I'm shooting a takedown right now, right? Was able to stop Robert Whittaker. Close fight with Sean Strickland. I did think Sean Strickland won this fight, but it was close either way, right? Was getting banged up on the feet by Adesanya. Was able to find a submission after he stung him on the feet. Beat Sean Strickland very convincingly in the rematch. I feel like DDP is going to win, man. I feel like it's going to be competitive, though. So I'm going to say by decision. I'm going to say that DDP wins by decision. Maybe he finds a mid to late round TKO because I got some worries for Usman, right? He's 39. He's been active over the years. He's coming up to 185. DDP hits hard. But I feel like stylistically, like Usman can actually do okay. Even if the wrestling isn't working, like Kamaru is the more technical puncher. He throws a really, really good jab. We know Usman's got one of the better jabs, I think, in the business. But DDP fought Strickland twice, and I think Strickland's got the best jab in the UFC. So he's already fought the guy with the best jab. So he's had two camps to prepare for a really good jab. So he knows how to deal with the jab, or at least how to work around it, or how to, find ways to get around it or whatever. And that's what he did in the rematch with Strickland. He would parry and fire off shots over the top, the right hand. He would counter with some kicks. So I feel like DDP is going to find a way to solve the jab of Usman. I feel like early Usman's going to have success, right? Jabbing upstairs, jabbing to the body, angling off, trying to pull DDP into that straight right hand, right? And we saw Usman step in with a beautiful right hand that absolutely violently KO'd Jorge Masvidal, which was incredible. No one saw that coming, right? I feel like working with Trevor Whitman, they're going to have a good game plan. A lot of it's going to be jab heavy footwork, angles, not staying in front of Dricus. And DDP comes charging into range. He's got that Looney Tune striking where he comes charging in right with the plot armor, the fallen piano, right? All that kind of stuff. But he's hittable. DDP's very hittable, and I think Kamaru Usman's the more technical boxer. The problem with Usman is outside of the jab and the straight right hand, which is, I mean, that's good, and you can work with that. He doesn't have very good hooks, and he doesn't have very good uppercuts. He kind of closes his eyes and ducks and just wing shots in the pocket to where if you do that against a power hitter like DDP, it's going to be a disaster, I'd think. So this comes down to the fact for me, if Usman can get takedowns on DDP over and over and over again, and he can keep DDP on his back, we know Usman's got good ground and pound. I think he's got better ground and pound than Khamzat, but Usman doesn't really have a great submission threat, at least from what we've seen so far. Maybe he breaks out something new in this fight. Not the greatest of submission threats, but he's got good ground and pound where he can neutralize DDP. And the best way to deal with a funky style of guy like DDP is to take him down, neutralize him, and not allow him to implement that game. That's what Khamzat did. Take him down. Take away some of that explosiveness. Take away that funkiness on the feet so you don't have to worry about it. But at the end of the day, Usman's not Khamzat. We saw, Usman in a ton of danger against Khamzat early, right? But again, styles make fights. Usman, against Buckley, he had some explosive shots in there, right? The way that he was able to get to some of these takedowns, we just kind of dive in on a takedown, and I'm like, wobbly knee Usman diving in on these takedowns was impressive. So I feel like the more technical straight puncher, Usman. But the better overall striker, I think, is DDP. And I know Usman's got some good low kicks to the body as well. DDP's kicks, I have a new appreciation for his kicks after, kind of preparing for this breakdown, watching back some of his fights with Izzy, with Strickland. His kicks are lightning fast, man. They are so fast. And what we've seen from Usman, remember when Leon Edwards set him up with that head kick? Watch DDP try something similar. Throw the left hand with a left high kick behind it, right? I don't think, DDP's like as smooth technically as a guy like Leon, and not as like smooth defensively against the grappling, but I think DDP is going to be, he's a ball of muscle, he's strong, and I feel like with the time away, if he's made the improvements with the takedown defense, I feel like that he will win this fight. So that's the big question. Can he stop the takedowns of Kamaru Usman? But that doesn't mean that he's going to win though per se. I think that means it's very likely he wins, but I feel like on the feet, Kamaru can give him some issues because Kamaru's got a good jab. He can switch stances. He can throw the jab from both sides very well. He could throw the good straight right hand to the body and eventually bring it upstairs. I'm curious to see what a full camp 185 Usman looks like. Because at 39 years of age, I feel like he's in the twilight of his career. He's looking around the welterweight division going, man, this division is insanely stacked. This is the most stacked division probably we've ever seen in the UFC, that and flyweight. And I feel like he's looking at middleweight saying, well, if I could go out here and beat DDP, I have history with Sean Strickland. I beat Sean Strickland. I have history with Khamzat Chimaev. I had a close fight with Khamzat to where if it was 5 rounds, people were saying that I probably would have won. So Usman has a path to get back to the title. And imagine he beats DDP and fights Strickland for the belt or something and wins the belt. Like, that would be crazy for his legacy, an already impressive legacy. But I got to go DDP. He's 32 years of age. I believe that the time away will serve him well. I don't think that he'll be rusty coming into this. I feel like they, with Coach Mornay, they've been drilling the takedown defense. They've been really working on that. And DDP's motivated for this, man. And you can hear him in these interviews. He's got a point to prove. Usman obviously does as well, moving up a weight class. One last run is, I think, probably almost the motto surrounding Usman here. I'm just guessing that this is probably his last run per se. But DDP's got a point to prove. Given what just happened in the Khamzat fight, it was embarrassing. And I feel like he's like, let me make these adjustments, and I'm going to come back here. Give me Usman, a guy that's an established welterweight, a guy that's one of the greatest, fighters of all time, the second greatest welterweight of all time, in my opinion, behind GSP. We know he's a good wrestler, but I feel like Usman throughout his career, his wrestling was really good in his prime, to where now I don't think he's in his prime anymore. He's still good, and I do think that Buckley is a little bit more difficult than DDP per se, because Buckley is a little bit lighter and a little bit faster and quicker at closing the distance than a guy like Dricus, I think. But I just don't know, man. And Buckley started to stuff the takedowns later in the fight, and he started to tag up Kamaru Usman. And I feel like if Kamaru, the wrestling's not working, I think he'll have early success with the striking. But as the fight plays out, I just think DDP's more dynamic on the feet. I know he charges in, and it's Looney Tunes-like, and it's kind of all over the place. It's like he's on roller skates, sliding in there. But he's got power. He's got power in his hands. He's got nasty kicks. I could see him attacking the legs of Usman, ripping kicks to the body to eventually set up some sort of high kick. And I could see it landing and then maybe DDP knocks out Usman. Maybe he stings Usman with a big shot, blitzing in, catches him over the top, rips to the body, puts him away, kind of like the Robert Whittaker fight. But we've seen throughout Usman's career, outside of the Edwards high kick, like Usman is very, very durable. Very, very durable. And DDP is very durable. So I don't know if anyone gets finished. I think if someone does get finished, it would be DDP knocking out Usman or at least a TKO stoppage. I think if Kamaru wins, it would be by decision. It would be by implementing the wrestling, neutralizing DDP, slowing him down, tagging him with the jab, fighting a very intelligent, smart, strategic game on the feet with a good game plan. I think Usman can definitely win. I think it's going to be a close fight. I think Usman takes a round or two in here. But I think DDP is just going to be a step ahead. And the biggest thing with DDP as well is even if he doesn't finish you, his output is insane for a middleweight. His output is crazy. And that was the difference in the Strickland fights, especially the first one. And why I feel like the judges gave it to him is because he's throwing so much at you. It's overhand, it's hook, it's this, it's uppercut, it's a kick to the leg, kick to the body, a 5-punch combination darting in. Like there's so much going on that gives the judges that just looks good to the judge's eye. And DDP to me, he's a more complete striker. I feel like Usman a little bit more technical with the striking, a little bit more textbook, but I feel like DDP is in the prime of his career while Usman is in the twilight of his career. And over the past few years, man, Usman's been very, very inactive. Very inactive, but he's shown even when he's away, he comes back and doesn't look rusty at all, can still go out there and put up a great fight. I think this is actually a pretty competitive fight, but I'm going to side with DDP. He's in his prime, the shot selection, the speedy kicks, the versatility that he brings to the table, and I feel like we're going to see some improvements in his overall defensive grappling game because offensively he's good. He's got good submission skills. His jiu-jitsu is good. We saw him take down Strickland quite a few times. We saw Usman take down Strickland as well, right? So Usman's one of these guys that years ago, he leaned on the wrestling a lot. To where later in his career, because of the knees, right, the wobbly knees, right, he's became more of a striker. And working with Trevor Whitman, Henry Hooft, his striking has gotten a lot better. We saw Gilbert Burns landing some big overhands on him before Usman was able to put him away. We've seen Masvidal land some shots on him. We've seen Colby land some shots on him. And I get it. Styles make fights. Colby's got the wrestling, the pace. He throws a million shots a fight. I get it. But DDP, I feel like is going to be the hardest hitter that Usman has fought, the most unpredictable fighter that Usman has fought, and just the most bizarre matchup for him to where it's just a very weird style to deal with. And I feel like Usman is going to struggle as the fight plays out on picking up DDP. Or he starts to figure it out late, but it's going to be where DDP is already too far ahead. So I feel like Kamaru tuck the chin, fire out straight shots down the middle to be able to land on DDP, throw to the body. The body doesn't move. Well, wherever he moves, right, the head does move to where you can miss, right? But if you throw at the body, it's a lot easier to hit the body, right? To kind of take some wind out of the sail of Du Plessis, slow him down to eventually line up some sort of big shot to where maybe Usman can clip him. I just feel like in order for Usman to win, he's got to fire off the jab, score with it, get to the wrestling, hold DDP down, win a couple rounds that way. And I feel like that's his path to victory. But I don't feel like Usman can replicate the same game as a prime Khamzat Chimaev. If Usman was in his prime making this move, I might pick him to win this fight. Even now, I'm giving him a good chance. But I feel like DDP, he's going to be a step ahead. He's got the power. He's got speed. And I feel like DDP's one of these guys where when there's a problem, he's going to solve it. He's going to come back motivated with a point to prove. This is a great fight, man. Usman, this is legacy here. He's already etched in history how great he is, all that kind of stuff. Moving up, this is just extra. This is a side mission. Is how I'm looking at it for Kamaru Usman. It's a great fight, but I got to side with DDP by a competitive decision here against Kamaru Usman, and I could possibly even see a late KO from Dricus Du Plessis. I just feel like DDP is going to blitz him, and I feel like even though Usman could counter with good straight shots, DDP in close is going to be able to land shots because Usman just kind of ducks and chucks. He's like closes his eyes and wings noodle punches. Right, so that's one of the weaknesses of Usman is in close striking, which DDP is not the best at, right? He's got some good knees and elbows. I feel like those would be some tools that he should break out in this fight. But I feel like those blitzing combos, if they're landing on a high-level striker like Izzy, they're landing on a high-level striker with some of the best defense we've ever seen in Sean Strickland, I would like to think that they are going to land on Kamaru Usman. Give me Dricus Du Plessis to get this one done by decision.